Hey, listen, your subconscious mind is a thing running a lot of your life. It's programmed. Maybe it happened accidentally. Most times it did, but there are ways to reprogram it. And if you understand how to reprogram your subconscious mind, well, you can honestly change the way you show up in life. And if you change the way you show up in life actionably, you start changing the outcomes, the things you receive, the achievements that you have, the transformations that you make. And those really equate to a cool life. Those are the things that we sit back and go, man, I wish I could have this, do this, feel this way, whatever it might be. But it won't happen if you don't adjust or reprogram the part of your body and the mind, which is your subconscious mind, that's really running a lot of things in the background, like it's that silent killer, man, or the silent builder, whatever you want to call it. There's something in the background going on. And for me, I realized this years ago that when I could learn to reprogram it and learn to be aware, I think, of the things going on so I can reprogram it, then what happens is I start living life in a different manner. I start picking battles differently. I start choosing how to show up differently. I start reading other people differently. I can understand how to navigate conversations, situations, meetings, moments, things that in the past would pass me by and I go, oh, I wish I would have done this, this, and this differently. Well, now I get to show up in a manner that allows me to be more present, more aware, and manipulate situations differently. I don't know if manipulate's the most positive word, but don't put a negative connotation to it. But manipulation in a sense of manipulate the way I respond to somebody being rude or, hurtful, right? I can manipulate my emotions around that. I can adjust the way that somebody might operate in a sense of I can adjust a person's focus and flow and determination and get someone to go harder, inspire them differently, right? And it happens because I can see my subconscious mind and how it flows, but also well, you can take a piece of what's going on inside of you and then apply it outwardly to see other people. You start to have different ways of navigating relationships and situations that benefit you and benefit them at the exact same time. So you got to be able to unravel what's going on and reprogram that area. First step of 5 of these is to be self-aware. Self-awareness is a big one because we're always doing things, and I love the statement which goes, it is hard to see the label when you are inside of the jar. Right? We all are operating in ways that we, for the most part, are unaware of, right? We just do our thing and flow through life, and some people close to us, they see it, but they don't feel like having a confrontation, so they don't even say anything. They just let you do your thing, and they'll talk about it behind your back sometimes, not to just be mean, but they don't feel like dealing with what you would have as a response if they shared this with you, right? So your self-awareness is lacking because you can't see you, and those who can don't tell you, right? But when you can get to the point of being self-aware, it's a game changer. You can operate different, make adjustments. You can receive feedback in a positive way. That's usually a hindrance. People can't receive feedback if it's not, you're amazing and you're great and you're beautiful. And if you can't receive anything but that, you won't receive success. You'll be stuck in the same place you are for a lot of years because you'll keep doing the same thing. And that label on the outside of the jar might say, I don't communicate well. I get mad too quick. I'm self-centered. But you don't know it. You're just doing your thing in the jar, right? The idea is to be able to step back and be more self-aware. I had this coach, my son's track coach, my son and daughter's track coach. We were having a conversation. First time I heard somebody say it, he goes, man, you're a very self-aware young man. The guy's like in his 70s. And I go, I guess so. He goes, where do you think it comes from? And I go, I think it comes from football, man. The ability for me to realize that I am not the problem is the problem. Right? So if you have a problem communicating, a problem being self-centered, you are not that. That problem is the problem, and that's what you must solve. When I practiced football, we would go and watch film, and they break it down. I get chewed out sometimes, but I didn't think in my head, I'm a horrible football player. I don't belong here because I messed this tackle up. No, I go, you know what? I can improve that. I got to read that differently, step here differently. I got to get my shoulders stronger to be able to release myself and get off these blocks, whatever it might be. But I realize that if I look at the problem as the problem, I can approach it differently, solve it, and press on. But I have to be okay watching the film. If you can't watch your film and see your areas of weakness or areas to improve, then what happens is you end up running around going, why is my life not getting better? Other people can see it, but they won't tell you because they don't feel like dealing with you because you don't know how to watch film just yet. You can't take the feedback. So get thicker skin, man, and then allow yourself to blossom out. So one's be self-aware. Number two is to practice redirecting limiting self-beliefs. What I mean by this is we all have these conversations in our head that limit our ability to press out. Like I tell people all the time, I want to build a podcast. Cool. Who should I get as guests? Ask whoever you want to ask. Ask the highest level people. Yeah, but they probably won't go on my show. They're never going to want to talk to me. Really? Interesting. Why are you the one telling yourself no, not letting them tell you no? You have a limiting belief that says that they're already going to say no, and you'd be surprised that sometimes if you create a good structure and make the podcast look good and you practice, that when someone's in the middle of a press run maybe, they got a new show coming out, a book coming out, they're more apt to say yes, right? But if you already tell yourself they're going to say no, you never ask because you had a limiting belief. So you have to redirect these a little bit, which means at first you have to act to create proof in the opposite. So if I have this belief, it's a limiting belief, I can't do this, well, act opposite. You may think they don't want to go on your show. Okay, what would I do in the opposite of thinking that? Well, I would act in a way as if they do, what would that look like? I'd make the ask. So you act in opposition to create something which is I call proof. Because right now the only proof you have is they're not going to be on my show. Why? Because they haven't been on my show. Got you. What can we do to create proof that they would be on your show? Get them on your show, right? And then in doing so, they get there. Oh, cool, it's amazing. And then you start reprogramming a little bit of how you have this belief of what is and is not possible. Most people stay stuck in the mental space of a limiting belief because they don't take action in the opposite of what they believe. It's a fairly simple concept, but it's always one of those things that's easier said than done. So number two is act in the opposite if you want to redirect the limiting self-belief. Number three is to affirm constantly, right? Affirmations are these interesting things that are really big on us talking to ourselves and our pupils. I literally say pupils, to then program and tell ourselves something different. When I was 15 years old, I wanted to be great at football. I wanted to. But there's a moment that changed everything. I sat in my room one day and I had this really dark day of just feeling like crap. And I looked myself in my eyes, in my pupils and said, Anthony, you're going to be great. Said it a couple times, looked dead at myself. And I don't know what it was about that moment, but that little moment of me talking to myself, it planted a different seed. It gave me this different feel. Like I was confirming to myself something that was possible, even though I'd never seen it being possible. And what happened is when I had that belief centered and I had a seed planted, I wanted to water it. I wanted to have that thing grow and blossom into the truth. I said, Anthony, you're going to be great in football. I wasn't great, had no proof of being great, but I affirmed it constantly, always to myself in the mirror daily. And the more I did it, the more I believed it. And the more I did actions in alignment with that belief. I started doing things that all of a sudden created this success, this good outcome. And now I started to get this feeling of like I can do it. And it was fueling my subconscious mind. So in the moments of my conscious life, the right things were coming forward. So you've got to affirm yourself constantly. When you can do that, everything opens up wide. Which leads us to point 4, which is kind of an anchoring again from point 2, but it's you got to find proof in the opposite of fear. I think when we think about ideas that are going to be the next level, we have some kind of fear around the thing that's going to take us to a higher place. But here's the thing is we won't tell it that. We won't admit that. But if you didn't fear it, it would already be done by now. You'd already have taken the action. So some part of you fears that you might fail, fears that the investment might not pan out, fears it could be the wrong action, fears rejection, right? So what we do is we sit back and we think about all the things that can go wrong and not enough time spent on all the things that can go right. For example, Dove did this really cool study years ago where they had these women come in and they had them sit in front of a sketch artist. 2 women, one would describe herself, other one would describe that same person. And they'd have these 2 people sit in separate times, discuss this thing and draw it out and they'd walk away. They'd come back. They'd sit them both down. They'd say, okay, great, we're going to show you these 2 pictures. They'd show both pictures. The one that had the person describing the other person was always beautiful and amazing. The one describing themselves was always hideous and ugly because all the person saw was the blemishes, the faults, the cracks, all these bad things. They didn't just see the good things. And so what happened is the proof they had was always being filtered through the subconscious of I suck. Whereas the other person loved that person and always saw it as they're amazing. That's why I'm with them, right? So you have to find proof of the opposite. And typically the proof is always there. You're just not looking at it. take a moment to step back and find the proof. Before I said create the proof. Yes, create the actions. This is what I'm saying, find the proof, because it does already exist if you just take a look at it. Number 5 is visualize. When you can visualize yourself doing things, it makes it real before it's real. If I have this thought of, I want to live out of a different subconscious space, I can't live out of a space I can't see, right? And so for me, as an example, when I was in college, my coach, DP, he was really big on visualization. Before a game, he's like, you should at some point shut things down, sit in your locker, close your eyes, and I want you to picture yourself going through the play. Because the first snap you take should not be on the field. It's real big. It gave me this perspective of like, oh, okay. Because, before the game, you're all nervous and everything, but if he framed it that way, like if I went on the field and in my head, I pictured the guy I'm going to go up against. I know his number. I've watched him on film all day. I can picture a stadium and playing. I've already been there. I can picture, the way my clothes look. I'm wearing them. I can picture that person, and I would go through in my head visualizing the ball snapped, me beating my guy, running around him, making the tackle, the crowd going crazy. I lived in that space, so my subconscious kept pushing that thought through. So when I got in the field, it was my 20th play, and that play played out in the way my subconscious thought it would, because I had this confidence that was already derived from the moment of success I previously had. See, we don't always do this. We always think about the failure, what can go wrong, and we don't visualize in our head what it could be, and even more so, visualize the positive. Now, you can visualize, and it could be like you get tackled or you miss the play, you mess things up in life and fail. Why visualize that? Visualize the positive so you can have accustomed emotions connected to that experience and feeling, and then recreate it in real life. If you do this, it's a game changer for life. So those are the top 5 ways to reprogram, I promise I can speak English, your subconscious mind.